Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. I'm going to be creating my journal so that I can work through the newest devotional from Bythewell4God, which is the Currency of Grace. I'm going to pattern this journal after this one that I did, I think around September. I think that was like September of last year. I've made journals like this before. I'm going to be using a twine binding on here, and I'm just going to be recycling a box. This one was coffee filters. I've used cracker boxes and all kinds of things if you've seen my channel before. I like using these. This is a pretty lightweight chipboard, so if you want something a little bit heavy duty, like more heavy duty, you could certainly just layer this up, or obviously just use a regular chipboard. I just like to recycle these whenever I can. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm starting with my X-Acto knife and my Tim Holtz ruler here, the steel edge side, and I'm just going to go around and trim off all the little flaps. And then I want my journal to be about 6.5 inches tall, because my internal pages for this are going to be about 6 inches. So that gives me just a little bit of wiggle room in there. So I'm just going through and marking 6.5 all the way down on this edge, and then I will go through and cut this bottom edge just in the same way. I'm just kind of using the grid that I'm working on. I'm using a self-healing mat. I work on a self-healing mat, and so I can do this right on that mat. You would want to make sure you protect your work surface if you didn't have that down there. So I sometimes forget to say that, but that's what that grid mat is. So this is what it's going to look like, and I'm going to use these papers from Bythewell4God. These are what coordinated with the kit for this devotional, and they're basically the perfect size for what I'm going to need. So I'm going to cover this cardstock. Sorry if I have things falling everywhere. Or not cardstock. I'm going to cover this chipboard with some double-sided adhesive. This is the scrapbook.com version. You could certainly use score tape or whatever. I prefer this for when I'm covering a journal in paper. You could certainly use a liquid glue if you wanted to, but it can warp the paper and the chipboard just a little bit depending on the quality of the chipboard especially. So I just find it easier to use this, and it's a really strong adhesive, so it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm just going to pull off these backing papers here, the release papers of this score tape. And then I'm going to center this pattern paper kind of on top. I want to make sure I have as close to the same amount around the edges of this as possible. So I'm just going to do this on the cover, and then I'm just going to burnish this down really well, just making sure that it's nice and adhered to that score tape. And then I am going to do the same thing on the back side. I'm leaving the spine like it is for right now, and I'm going around the edges of this paper just because the Bythewell4God paper is such a good quality paper. It's nice and thick, and so I don't want to take any chances of it cracking. And because I'm wrapping it around a thinner chipboard, I just want to make sure that I can get it to wrap really well. So I'm just going to cut off some of these corners. You could do a straight cut across here. I like doing kind of a little V, just to cut out some of the bulk. And then you can see I'm just kind of folding just real gently around the edges. This just helps break up the fiber in the paper a little bit, so that when I go to wrap it, it's easier to wrap. It's going to stay stuck. It's not going to kind of fight the adhesive as much, and also it's less likely to tear or to crack when you do it that way. Some really heavy duty papers can crack. Bythewell4God's paper doesn't typically do that, but it's just something I do to make sure that doesn't happen. So you can see I have gone around the inside and added some more of this double-sided adhesive. This is just a smaller version, and I'm going to kind of roll this up around the edge, because I want to make sure that my paper is right up next to the edge of that chipboard as I kind of roll it around. And then I'm going to do like the top and bottom sections first, and then I will do the release paper over here on the side. And the reason I have paper or double-sided tape on both the paper and on the chipboard is I want to get basically full coverage on there, so that to make sure that it stays down. So I put it on the edge of the chipboard and the very edge of the paper, and then when everything gets glued together, it will stay down nice and easy. So I went ahead and did that to the other side, and you can see I left the the spine. You could definitely add another piece of paper if you wanted to. I am actually going to go a different way with this, and I'm going to use gaffer tape. So this is a flexible tape, and in some instances it's repositionable. It just kind of depends. But it's a really strong, flexible tape. And so it's what I'm going to use over the spine here. I have the 3-inch version. It comes in different widths and also different colors. I have some in black and some other things. A lot of times I'll put this on the inside of a spine just because it's nice and flexible and it's really strong. So I know that it's going to do well with my spine. So I'm just basically doing that same thing. I'm just going to wrap it around to the inside. And then this is what the outside of my cover will look like. And I just want to run some more of this gaffer tape down to the other end. I'm not just for that middle section, just to make sure that it's white all the way down. Obviously, you're not going to see this part because this is where the signatures and stuff are going to be. So, and now because I have it on the inside and the outside, I just want to work that spine a little bit. So I just kind of folded it and used my bone folder just to make a good crease in there where that spine is. And now I want to cover the inside. So I'm using some more of the pattern paper from the devotional kit, and I'm just marking on here kind of where I want this to fall. I want it to kind of come over the edge of that gaffer tape just a little bit and give me a nice border all the way around. So I didn't measure that. I just kind of marked it. And then I'm just cutting both of these pieces at the same time, so they will be the same size. And then I will put the double-sided adhesive on the back of this paper as well. And then it's just going to glue in here like this, and I'm okay with the white section. Again, you could add another layer of paper there if you wanted to. You could do all kinds of things. So this is just the way that I wanted to do this particular journal. So it's kind of hard to see what I'm doing here, but I'm getting ready to add that double-sided tape to the entire back of this paper that I just cut. I'm going to do that to both sides, and then you can see me here gluing down this second piece. I always kind of take the release papers and kind of make them like wings on the side so that I can get it lined up before I press anything down. And it just makes me make it so that I can get it lined up right, and then you can just pull the release papers. So I am using some baker's twine for the twine binding, and this is like a purple color. And so I've done this on my channel before, but when you start, you want to kind of leave a long edge over that left side. And now I'm just going to wrap this twine around here. And I'm going to count really quick to make sure I have enough. I want to have 14 because I'm going to have basically 14 pages in here, or signatures basically, that I'm going to have for each of the days of the devotional. You just want to kind of make sure that your twine, that when you're wrapping it, that you're not crossing over your thread. You want to just kind of keep it straight, and you can, you don't want to do it too tight either. So just kind of keeping it loose, just making sure that none of them are overlapping before I tie all of this off. So I'm going to cut this off here. So I have one piece coming up over the top and one piece coming up from the bottom. You can kind of see here. And then what I'm going to do is take those two pieces, and I'm going to cross them over each other, over all of these threads. As soon as I'm going to fiddle with this here just for 1 second, just making sure nothing is overlapping. So here are the two pieces from the top and from the bottom, and then I'm just going to cross them over like that. And then the one on the left, I'm going to take and slide underneath all of those strings and pull it over to the right. And then now when I pull this tight here, you could do this in the middle, you could do it at the bottom if you wanted to. I always tend to do it like the top third. I'm just going to tie that off right there with a little bow. And now I'm going to make my signatures for the inside. The spine is basically done. I'll make one little adjustment to that in a little bit, but I'm using Bristol Vellum Smooth cardstock from Canson. No, this is Strathmore, sorry. It's 9x12 paper. I'm cutting it at 6 inches, and then I will take these papers and fold them. I'm using these because they are pretty sturdy. They hold up to a lot of different mediums. If I want to watercolor or paint or do whatever, it's going to hold up to it because it's a really thick paper. You could do mixed media paper, whatever you kind of want to do. So I went ahead and scored all of those. So I have all 14 of those ready to go. And now I can just slide them into these strings on the inside. And then when I'm working through this devotional, I can just pull out the one that I'm working on for that day. I can work on it, and then I can just tuck it back in. I really like working this way. It's just easier than trying to fight a book the whole time. And now that I have everything in there, I'm going to make this knot nice and tight and make it, I'm going to do a double knot and then I'll tie it. I may add something on here. Usually I add the little flare pins there. We didn't have those this month, so I'll probably add something else. But now when I'm working on this, I can just slide that signature out, work on it, and then stick it back in. So if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.